Well, greetings again. This is Bishop Andy C. Luter coming to you once more with my video lecture series on church leadership. And as I always have discussed both repeatedly and again, this particular lesson is designed for persons who find themselves in a local church context. So if you're a deacon, if you're a deaconess, if you're a trustee, a ministry leader, an auxiliary leader, or just somebody who has a heart to do more in the local church, this particular curriculum was prepared for you. This lecture will conclude, as it always does, with a series of questions that will help you master the material so that you can stand for a review if that is the custom of your church. I continue to pray that this material will expand your skill set and knowledge base so that you can be better at doing whatever it is that God has called you to do. So, with that being said, let's get started. This lesson is entitled Important Places of the Bible, Part 1. In the ancient Near East, commonly called the Holy Land, there is no other body of water that has more mystery than the lake that is known as the Dead Sea. Now, friends, the Dead Sea, of all the bodies of water in the Holy Land, contains more salt than any other. As a result, it has an enormous amount of buoyancy, so much so that it is impossible for virtually anything to sink in its water. Again, the high content of salt does not allow any creature to live. That is why it is referred to as the Dead Sea. After the reign and the rule of Saul, David, and Solomon, the nation of Israel divided itself between the north and the south. As you may recall, the southern kingdom took on the name Judah, while the northern kingdom retained the name Israel. The capital of the northern kingdom was Samaria, an important place, and remained so until the northern kingdom fell to the Assyrians, which took place in 722 BCE. Now, friends, while the Dead Sea is certainly one of the most popular bodies of water in the Holy Land, there is no other body of water more popular or prominent than that which is known as the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea is composed of two particular words. Let's take a quick look at them. The first of these two words is Medi, which literally means middle or central. The second is terrain, which we get the English word terrain, and it literally means the earth or world. Now, when you put Medi and terrain together, they form the word Mediterranean, which literally means the body of water that is the center or middle of the earth. It was generally believed by the ancient world that the original body of water that is mentioned in Genesis and from which all other rivers sprang was the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea was viewed as the literal center of the earth by the people who lived in the region. Okay, friends, there are two times in biblical history that the people of God target the area of Canaan as their destination and promised land. The first of these two times is when God tells Abraham to leave family and kin in Terah and set out for a land that God would show him, which ended up being Canaan. Abraham would eventually settle in the area, and there takes place the story of Isaac and Jacob. The second time in biblical history that Canaan is central to the narrative of the Bible is when Moses leads the children of Israel out of Egypt and in the direction of the promised land that is called what? Canaan, yes. While Moses himself did not reach Canaan with the children of Israel, Joshua would eventually lead the children of Israel to the region, conquer the tribal communities there, and reestablish God's promise to his people. While Jerusalem and Judah would be located in the area known as Canaan, it is the land north of the area that becomes one of the most antagonistic areas for the people of Judah to have to deal with. It is under King Nebuchadnezzar that Babylon rises to become a world power that would eventually come to conquer Jerusalem in the 6th century BCE. Babylon, which is the name of a region and an empire as well, has as its capital Babylon, and it is there that the Jews would be taken into captivity for over 40 years. The city of Babylon was an imperial city that was known as one of the 7 wonders of the world because of its famous hanging gardens. Eventually, Nebuchadnezzar would fall as a result of God's decree and curse. Babylon would fall to the Persians under Cyrus, sometimes called Darius. Abraham is known as the father of the faith, and as such, his wife Sarah is highly respected and regarded. Many of you will recall the story of how on at least 2 occasions Abraham would pretend that Sarah was his sister and not his wife. And of course, who could forget that Abraham and Sarah were granted the blessing of having a child despite them being well advanced in years? Sarah would die and be buried in a place that is called Hebron. Well, friends, this finishes the first of 2 lectures on important places in the Bible. Please proceed to consider the study questions for this particular lesson. Here they are. Let's begin here. Which body of water in the Holy Land can no living creature live? Number 2, please name the capital of the Northern Kingdom. 3, what body of water's name literally means the center of the earth? 4th question, what is the name of the area that is called the Promised Land? And finally, for this lesson, where is Sarah, the wife of Abraham, buried? Listen, friends, I am Bishop Andy C. Luter, and I want to thank you for sharing these last several minutes with me. I continue to pray that this material has been helpful, and I look forward to sharing with you with important places in the Bible, part 2. Until then, remember, God loves you, and so do I.